Have you ever felt the need to step away from the daily grind to rediscover your purpose? Are all our hands raised right now? Perhaps a major life transition has left you feeling uncertain about who you are and what your purpose is in this world. What if I told you that taking an intentional guided sabbatical could transform your life and help you reach your full potential? Today, we share Monika Lewicka's powerful story of empowering women through travel as they navigate life's biggest changes. In this episode, we'll dive into the logistics of planning a sabbatical, how Japanese psychology can guide personal growth, and why intentional time away is the key to reconnecting with your true self. Let's go. Hi, I'm Kelly Tolliday, founder of Transform with Travel, and your trusted guide to life-changing adventures. Here, we help you dream big, plan smarter, and embark on your next journey without stress or overwhelm. This isn't just about booking trips. It's about reimagining what's possible for yourself, one adventure at a time. Today, we're bringing you one step closer to your greatest travel dreams. So buckle up because we are about to take off. Hello, hola, bonjour. Welcome to the Transform with Travel podcast. We are celebrating the news that Transform with Travel is officially the #8 wellness travel podcast in the world, according to FeedSpot. It's been a journey to say the least, and I feel so grateful for each and every one of you who show up, listen to the pod, leave a review, and share with friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This month, we're sharing stories of incredible women in the travel industry, all to celebrate International Women's Day. And in today's episode, we have Monika Lewicka. Monika is an adventurer, transformational tourism leader, women's empowerment advocate, and expert in solo travel and sabbaticals, with a personal journey spanning over 70 countries and 5 continents. And she draws on her experiences navigating life's transitions and overcoming mental health challenges to help other women break free from burnout and reach their full potential through transformative travel, which is what we are all about here at the Transform with Travel podcast. Monika takes a supportive, non-judgmental approach in her work. Her innovative sabbatical framework, which we're going to get into in this episode, called Empowered Travel, offers structured support for women undergoing life's transitions through solo travel. You will be taken on a journey through this episode, so let's get started. Hey there, welcome to the podcast. I'm Kelly Tolliday, and I'm joined today by Monika Lewicka, who is a pioneer in the transformational travel world, empowering women to embark on their own sabbaticals and solo travel journeys. Thanks so much for being here today, Monika. I'm so excited.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much. I already feel so good. I'm so grateful to be here and lovely to be connected with you and with your audience.
Yes. And so we always start our episodes with our little game, Two Truths and a Lie Travel Edition. Would you want to kick off and see if you can trick me here?
Let's try. So the story number 1 would be from Argentina, from the province called Cordoba. And I think around 11 years ago, I just finished my second Vipassana meditation, 10-day silent meditation course there. And it was a very immersive experience that surprised me greatly. And just to kind of have this little rite of passage, I decided to climb a little mountain that's believed to be visited by some unusual visitors. So they believe that UFO lives there and wherever. It's not like I really believe in that, but I went there, I climbed the mountain with my headphones in, which I don't do anymore, to be honest, and maybe that's going to explain why. When I was on my way down, I do love going to the mountains on my own and doing it rather efficiently. So I was running down and I encountered this big rattlesnake in the middle of my path, and there was nobody else to be seen. And it was standing and rattling. And even though I had my headphones in, I could hear it. And this was like to many people, I'm not very unusual in that regard, but I am scared of snakes very, very much. And I was really shocked to came across something like this. And it didn't really want to let me pass, but it did at some point. And I started running, even though it was the last thing I should have done in that situation, running down as they do follow you often out of their instinct. The second story comes from New Zealand. It's where I was bike touring with my dog. It was really hard to get there, but I managed, and I cycled and bike toured through the whole 2 islands with my dog, which opened many doors and really allowed for some incredible experiences and connections with local people who were there with the open arms to host us both oftentimes. And the first story comes from Everest Base Camp during COVID times. I was privileged and honored to join an expedition/research project there along the high Himalayas. We were talking mostly to women out there along the hike and researching how their situation have changed because of tourism and whether it was beneficial or not to them. to have this amount of tourists there. And yeah, I was very lucky that I really making the best use of the opportunity, and I wanted to like venture and to go to all the viewpoints around, and I ventured to the Everest base camp, and to my big surprise I was there completely alone. So that was quite a meaningful moment for me as somebody who, yeah, I'm not a big mountaineer or climber, but this is something what I enjoy doing the most in my life. So that was a big moment to be there with this majestic mountains. So I hold it as a beautiful memory until now and probably forever. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, of course.
Okay, so I think only because I know how difficult it is to get animals into New Zealand, I think number 2 is the lie. Only because I know how crazy it is. Am I right?
You're right. Wow, you're good. Bravo.
Well, I am intimately aware of how difficult it is to travel with pets to Australia and New Zealand. So that was the only reason why, because all those stories seemed very plausible because you're very adventurous travelers.
Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was trying to really keep the excitement high, telling this story that it's not really real. I didn't know you were so aware of all these immigration rules. But yeah, well done. Well done.
Thank you. Well, I guess this is like a great segue because you just described very immersive experiences in parts of the world that not many people, even think about traveling to. So you've been to over 70 countries and you've embarked on some really, really adventurous trips like bike touring through Cuba and hiking solo in the Himalayas and motorcycling in Bolivia. How did your journey with travel evolve from simply collecting stamps in your passport to becoming truly a tool for personal transformation?
Thank you, Kelly. What a beautiful question. I truly believe that traveling for me somehow was never really about collecting stamps. The only thing I do remember that I knew what I wanted to do in the future when I was, when I grow up, was that I wanted to somehow have some sort of positive impact. That was something that I had very clear. I didn't really know how to get there, but this is how I've chosen my university studies, which was political science and economics. I wanted to work for UN, for the humanitarian department, because I wanted to, be out there and help. However, at some point I understood that I am not really getting any closer by sitting in a university room and listening to all these fantastic professors, very knowledgeable, and reading these amazing books that I still consider very valuable, if I'm not really gonna make my hands dirty and go there. So for me, like, traveling was always about immersing and being with people. I think people have always been the most important component. However, while this was progressing, so since the first long journey that lasted for a year and a half, even though that wasn't really a plan. But yeah, we departed with my ex-partner on the bicycles to Cuba when Fidel was still alive, and we were like freshly after university. So this trip already was all about like being out there and experiencing what life somewhere else might be like. And for me, a student who was learning about the political systems, economic conditions, and conditioning, like, it was really interesting for me to see that people live differently. And I also spoke Spanish at the time. So travel was always about immersion. I've been lucky that the word was always of my interest, but it did evolve while I was getting to know myself better, I guess, through the challenges that this type of traveling, full-time bike touring with wild camping, what it really exposed us to, which was this authentic life of local people. I think I started to really understand the privilege that I had, and also that the possibilities out there. So I think with all those travel-related experiences plus these meaningful experiences that kind of opened themselves toward us, like Vipassana when I was 21, this 10-day silent retreat, I think those things really showed me that there was so much more out there, and to explore, to learn, to appreciate, to respect, to fight for, to protect. And I think I don't want to get too emotional, but really, like, these travels really changed my life. And I am doing what I'm doing because I really believe travel is such a vehicle for empowerment, for sustainability, for conservation, and for us to really see that we are all the same, with the same dreams, the same hopes, and yeah, so this was a beautiful path and vehicle, and I'm very honored to be on that journey, and that it started so early for me, and that I was even able to think about traveling in that way. Some people had to travel because they have no other choice, for food, for yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it
Answers your
totally
question, but
did. You can just tell the passion that you have for going beneath the surface and really exposing yourself to what the world has to offer, and recognizing the privilege in that as well, I think is really important, which you did. So from your time of you were in university and you decided to embark on this, life-changing trip with your ex-partner and you're going for your bike tour to now, right? Now you're an expert, you're an advocate, you're a leader, you empower women around the world to have these experiences so that they can take control of their potential and reach their highest potential. There's a lot in between then and now. And you specialize really in helping women navigate those life transitions and burnout through the technique or through the strategy of intentional transformational travel. Can you share some personal experiences, I guess, from the girl in her only early 20s to now that inspired you to focus on empowering women through these pivotal moments in life?
Thank you, Kelly, for all this beautiful introduction. I don't really know whether I deserve, a major part of what you just shared, but I take it. I try to. Thanks for this. And I do feel like, yeah, the journey evolved. And I think also the healing modalities that I was engaging in also changed throughout this time. I always was a seeker, I think. I wanted to learn who I was, like how could I contribute. And I was quite lost, as we oftentimes are, very confused and trying to build my identity around the values that I believed in. Yeah, the journey was a bumpy one. I kind of, you said 20s, but yeah, I think it started when I was 4. I joined a scout team. I was the youngest, I think, member out there. And I remember how much I enjoyed it. This immersion in nature, the companionship, like understanding that it's important to do things together and not just, my own needs and etc. So it started there. And I think then, yeah, I kind of met a guy who was a big traveler who, like, when he was 17, he went to hitchhiking from Warsaw, the capital of Poland, all the way to Iran, Pakistan, and India. And kind of,
Wow.
he's had so many stories, and it was him who inspired me to start traveling that way, which by this way I mean independently and unassisted. And now I consider the way we traveled quite challenging, and like exposing ourselves to a lot of different things, including dangers. But I think the biggest lesson and learning from this is that the world is a beautiful place, and the majority of people are good, and they want to help you, and they want to host you, and they want for you to have the best experience. But in terms of women in general, I think during my travels, I met so many women, so many capable women out there who didn't really, or at home whenever I was based somewhere like Slovenia or London, I met so many women out there that were not fully aware of their greatness. They were accepting and settling with very little. They were very attached or dependent on other people, and they were very much people pleasing because they wanted to be accepted and loved. And I just felt very bad because I saw these capable women speaking thousands of languages, having so many talents, being so brilliantly positive, and then I saw them so kind of limited by their own set of beliefs. So I wanted to find a way as well, through my own experiences, using those experiences to find a way for these women to empower themselves. I am no one to empower anybody. I can only inspire those women to see this in their own eyes. And the program that I created, which is also a fruit of all the major methodologies that I came across, such as Vipassana, the meditation silent retreat, the armoring, which is healing through movement, touch, breathwork, and voice, as well as a regenerative approach to life, which takes nature as a blueprint and acknowledges the interconnectedness and interdependence of all parts, which I think is really hard to talk about empowerment and healing when we feel disconnected from ourselves, our neighbor, the park down the road, or the forest next to us. We are super interdependent as an ecosystem. So that's why I also incorporated this as a very important element of a program. And then shamanism as well, which I've experienced without plants. I've never tried that, but the deep immersion with shaman leaders as well. And then it kind of, long story short, I grabbed a book about Ikigai, the life purpose, and this is how my journey started and my studies in Japanese psychology. And I think rightfully say that since I've been engaging with it for a little bit over a year and a half now, I've never been happier. But happier in a way that I just feel like I have more tools to deal with uncertainty, with anxiety, with these uncomfortable feelings that we are exposed to and we cannot escape from. I just feel like the life became so much more purposeful and enjoyable, which doesn't mean that there are no problems or challenges. It's just like the different ways of handling those that this allows. So this whole journey was like trying to heal myself as well. After a pretty bumpy childhood, I was depressed clinically, and I had anorexia, and I was abused. It was a lot of things, which I'm very grateful that happened, really, I mean it. And because it led me to look for solutions and for healing, and it brought to my path amazing people. And I feel like, I think I'm never able to pay back for anything, for all the things I've received from others. So that's why I do what I do. I just want to help at least one person on the road, down the road. And if that happens, I'm happy.
We've only known each other digitally, but even through what I see online, I think that shines through exactly, your why and your passion. And you mentioned Japanese psychology. I know that you draw a lot of your work now and a lot of your like coaching framework around the Japanese psychology on top of all the amazing other modalities that you work with. How did you become first immersed in this concept of ikigai? And can you explain what ikigai is to those who might have never heard that before?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And yes, as I mentioned a second ago, this is how my journey and my experience with Japanese psychology mindset really, because when I was in Japan and I was asking guys, like, can you tell me something about your Japanese psychology? We're like, what? So for them, it's not really psychology, it's the way of living. It's the mindset. Right. But anyway, so coming back to your question. So some time ago, my partner handed out to me the book about ikigai. So the art of living a long and happy life. There's many books that have this title, but that's the one that's the most well known. And it's a short, very approachable book. And I was so engaged in reading. I really enjoyed every page. And somehow during that reading, beside the fact of, I was familiar with the term ikigai. That's basically something that we come up with this very thing by asking ourselves 4 questions: what we love doing, what we are good at, what the world needs, and what we can be paid for. So that's basically how there in Japan we're working towards identifying this purpose or this reason for living. It doesn't have to be just one. It doesn't have to be a big deal. We don't need to help children in some third world countries to say we have a purpose. It can be just living, following our values, being a good human, being of service, volunteering, like, I don't know, being kind no matter what, like whatever this purpose might be, or like some craftsmanship that we are good at and brings joy to others. That can be purpose too. So basically this reading exposed me to an approach in anxiety healing called Morita therapy. And this Morita therapy comes from the Shoma Morita. He was a psychiatrist working in Japan between end of 19th and beginning of 20th century. And this guy came up with a pretty innovative approach to residential anxiety healing. So he was taking patients for 4 weeks at a time, and he was taking them through this 4-stage process. And I, of course, I'm not a medical doctor by any means. I'm studying and I'm getting certified, but I'm taking this work very seriously. So I'm not skilled to deal with severe depression. However, I'm trying to work with people who are going through transitions and are healthy. So I've adapted this 4-stage program into my empowerment travel framework, where we also go through 4 stages. Of course, it's not so radical, but it's still inspired by all these elements of the journey that Morita initially came up with, which starts with deep introspection, deep rest, and positive solitude. So our women are alone for the first part of that journey in order to really rest their senses and recharge their nervous system capacity. I believe it's really hard to talk about empowerment when we are exhausted. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like saying, go take a hot bath and you'll be fine. Like, no, it's a societal systemic issue as well, too. So there's a lot of layers to it. So you're talking about kind of the 4 stages of this therapy, from this Japanese psychiatrist, but also that how you've overlaid that on top of how you help women on their journeys as well. And this is specifically going through your business and community called Empowered Travel. How did you make the decision to move the coaching framework, but towards a sabbatical? Like, what was it about a sabbatical that you were like, okay, this is the vehicle, and then here's all of the strategies that I can use on top of that? I'd love to hear, like, it's not just solo travel, like it's an intentional carved out time. So I'd love to hear like how that became clear to you that that's what these women who were coming to you needed.
I'm sure you can recall those moments in your life when you were like thinking, what is my talent? Like what I'm good at? How even I get there? Like how can I make good use of it and maybe even be of service of others because of that talent? So I never really know. I never knew. I always knew what I was interested in, but I'm one of those people that's hard for me to take compliments, and I take them and I respect them. But it's like if I really internalize them, I'm not sure, but I'm working on it. And I got to some point when I was burnt out and I didn't really know what I wanted to continue doing, what I want to do with my life. And I was trying to recall those things that repeat, like those things that I hear from others that I know care about me, and like there's some recurring pattern there. And yeah, they always were pointing towards the fact that people often felt better after spending time together, or they felt hurt. That was one of the things that actively hurt and empowered. And I think I have the tendency of really seeing good in others. Like some of my friends laugh at me that, oh, Monika, you never can say anything wrong, or like you never dislike anybody. It's like I may do, but I still really enjoy looking for those good things, because I think we all have them and we can inspire people to have those come back to the surface more. So that was one thing that I kind of discovered. I still like have struggles to like even talk about it, but because I'm not fully, there to acknowledge it. But I do feel like maybe some people feel better after like being together. So this empowering, whatever it is there, I wanted to embrace it. And then also I came to hear a lot of women saying that they did take some time off, but they basically feel that they feel disappointed and they wasted time and money. So then I came up, kind of, wait a second, like there's something in it. Plus, somehow, coming back to what I've started with, like what was the thing that I was doing a lot, what I was potentially good at. When I was trying to answer that question, I realized that I took like 8 sabbaticals in my life between, I'm still quite young, but 34 this year. But it really, like I had a privilege and also a courage, I guess, to risk everything and spend all my savings on going and venturing into those trips with one-way ticket, and not really to tick the boxes or collect the stamps, but to, I think, look for myself and figure out my identity and how I can make some contribute somehow. And yeah, so I realized that this experience of taking sabbaticals combined with the need out there in the world for women to maybe have more structure and tools to try. There's no promise there. We're not selling transformational. We not package it or something. We just guide it, maybe stage it, and hope for the best, and guide people and support. But yeah, so I kind of this combined with this growing demand and need in the market for more structure, for this time away, for career breaks. So many people, fortunately, are not end up burnout. I think it's not that bad, because at least they see that they need to do something. And many women who reach out to me, they say that, Monika, I know that I need a change, but I'm so scared. So they are in this liminal space between the old and the new, and they feel like disabled to do anything, really. So this is where we come in with this structure that slowly helps them prepare for what's to come. And we start with this deep rest. Then we work on rediscovering our purpose, and so on and so on.
I really love the piece around women they've taken the time. Some of them did take their sabbaticals, but there was no intentionality behind it or no accountability, right? So it's like, oh, I'm going to do all this journaling and I'm going to have this introspection time and I'm going to do the yoga class or whatever. But there's no one really cheering you on. There's no one checking in with you to see if you've done it. It's kind of like, that you need to make a change to become healthier. Like, let's say that you need to lose 15 pounds, but you haven't hired a trainer to help you get from point A to point B. You just go into the gym and you're just kind of flailing the weights around. You're not actually having any intentionality behind it. There's going to be no result if that's the case, right? So you're that trainer, you're that coach that's helping them get from point A to point B.
Basically, the research that has been done in the last 2 years by Stone Mantle and this Professor Joe Pine, finding out that the people, what are really looking forward is to be guided. So almost 2/3 of consumers out there were looking to be guided. We're looking for this human touch and support of the guide throughout this process of change. But exactly as you said, the engagement from the side of the client is extremely important, and we cannot do anything unless they are engaged. Another thing that I think the reason why many of those sabbaticals were failing, even though I still believe they lived a lot there and it was probably a great experience, especially after the time passes. We tend to recognize that. But I think it might be failed because we replicate the same patterns. Like we fall into the same traps even when we feel like we need to go far to change our lives, and sometimes like the most profound changes happen like right where you are at. That's why also a program that we design, it finishes, the stage 4 is at home, because I want this awe to be brought back home. I want these women to start living differently already when the program is still happening. But coming back to this engagement and these patterns that are being replicated, what I find the most beautiful about Japanese psychology is that it's so simple. It's just so beautifully simple. And it starts with acknowledging that our feelings and thoughts are in their nature uncontrollable. We cannot control them. We need to accept when they come in and go, and just focus on what we can control, which is our action. And even better, if our action is based instead of these ever-changing feelings, which often happens, we are reactive. I'm first one to be blamed also, but I'm working on it. And I feel like once we realize we can base our action on our purpose or purposes, or how we want to show up in the world. And then whenever in doubt, we come back to it. We come back to what's important to us, and we decide consciously, no, I'm not going to be reactive. I'm going to accept these uncontrollable feelings, and I'm going to do what needs doing, what this very moment requires from me to do. So acceptance, the action, the constructive actions based on our purpose, the attention that it's focused outwardly. It's not about escapism. It's just about stopping to dwell on the past that we cannot control, or the future that we are not there yet. And if we are in the future, we lose the now. And it's just like so simple. All these things like being present, ichigo, ichie, it's being present, or gaman, the endurance for dignity, accepting the challenge and growing through it. Kaizen, instead of big revolutionary changes, just let's take small steps, but consistently, towards gaining that momentum. And then it becomes easier, like with habits. So it's just like so beautifully easy. And sometimes I feel like we are looking for this enlightenment, these very complicated healing therapies, or we dwell on whys or our childhood. I've been on to so many therapies in my life. And I feel like I'm sure it helps people, and the Western psychology is relevant. But I personally, at least subjectively, can say that working with my body, working with my voice, breath work, and with the now, and accepting whatever is uncomfortable, and being of service has changed my life forever. And it's so simple. It just took a long journey to get there, and I'm sure it's an ongoing process, and I still struggle. But at least I have some tools, and I really hope to make these tools available to everybody else. And I look forward to continue learning as well.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes when you're offered strategies, techniques, advice that's simple, we often dismiss it because change and transformation has to be hard. And of course, there's challenges in life, and it depends on what layers of trauma that you're kind of digging through. But oftentimes, the most simple, effective, easy to adopt strategies are the ones we negate the fastest because we don't think it's hard enough, or we need to challenge ourselves too much to get through that. I can relate very much to thinking leaving your home and going somewhere else is going to fix all your problems, as if your habits and behaviors and patterns aren't just going to magically pop up in Italy because you left to go to Italy. If anything, it accelerates that mirror. Your travel will accelerate that mirror of seeing the shit that you're trying to not pay attention to, because you're going to be faced out of your comfort zone. And I think that's the beauty of having extended time to travel, like a sabbatical offers these women. And so you do talk about that you often work with women who are navigating life transitions, navigating burnout, mental health, all of these things that the whole world is dealing with right now. What are some of the common transitions or common life changes that you see women struggle with that come to you for help to be able to design a sabbatical that will help them? What are some of these things, life things that are happening for them?
Thanks, Kelly. There is some common pattern, as I slightly touched on a few minutes ago. So usually there's either women who are in their 30s or 40s. They are very successful, very hardworking. They pride themselves on being hardworking, and oftentimes they are quite affluent, but they lack purpose. And they already feel it very strongly, and they cannot deny it. And they hit the wall, and they're like, I cannot continue this way, but they are really scared. They are looking for the accountability partner for their transition process, and they want tools because they're afraid. They're so methodological that they know they need to follow a certain pattern to get there. So they are usually looking for the structure of how they can make this change happen, and have somebody who's going to, as you said, cheer for them and make them accountable. That's, I would say, number one profile of women reaching out. They're mostly English native speakers from South Africa, Canada, US, of course, UK, Australia, Germany. Those are like Singapore, the most hardworking, I would say, maybe burnout countries out there. I don't know. I shouldn't be saying that, but yeah, that's what my impression has been. The other group of people who've been reaching out, they are about age of 60. Empty nesters, women who oftentimes are getting through some painful divorce, for example, or are willing to invest in themselves, or they are looking for to invest in themselves and go somewhere on their own. And very oftentimes is their first solo trip, being 60. So they are kind of learning to be independent. and they are really interested in going through that process. They are scared, but I am amazed by the courage that they have and the openness to go through those processes with a lot of trust. So I would say those are the major life transitions that those people are going through. Of course, breakups, like after long relationships as well, is like often is a case that is out there often. But yeah, I would say these three situations: career changes, personal changes, and maybe this, how do you call it? There's a term for it, the gray sabbatical. They call when people above a certain age, retired, often take this time for themselves to reinvent their purpose for the last period of their lives. We also started the program with counting the remaining days. So on average, people living in the Western world, we live on average 30,000 days, which is around approximately 80 years. So we start by counting that, how many days remain for us, not to panic or to be depressed because of that, but rather to really, it usually motivates people to do something to make this day count. So we're starting with that, with the realization of where we are at in our life. We also do an important element, Kelly, is taking the time to re-examine, not just self-reflect, not just like whatever self-reflect, because it may go everywhere. It might go nowhere really too if we say like, oh, self-reflect please. We are trying to inspire women to take the time to re-examine their life by asking them a noikan. It comes from Japanese psychology as well. 3 questions, which are as follows. The first one is, what have I received? For example, in the last year or in the last week, or from my husband. You can do it on people too. What have I received that benefited me? The first column. Then the second is, what have I given that benefited them? Even the world or my husband or my mom, whoever we are doing this exercise on. And the first question is the problems and difficulties we caused to others. And we are supposed to do it for like somewhere between 30 to 60 minutes and really take time to go deep. We just oftentimes, me included, take things for granted. So we do this exercise of really coming up with these things that we received and we've given and the problems and difficulties we caused. And believe me, the vast majority of the cases, people are able to come up with such long list of things they received, such list of things they've given. And for example, if you do it on a person that it's difficult in your life to you, like in my case, for example, without going too much into details, was my dad that I don't have much relationship with. And I always was telling myself that I don't have a relationship, I am a victim, blah, blah, blah. That's the reason why my love life wasn't going too well until some time ago. And it's so not true. When you really do this exercise, it's a simple exercise, and you come up with a list of things you received from my dad, which I didn't really have much contact with, and I really struggled to come up with anything I've given. Then the narrative of my life, I keep telling myself, changes. And also the place in the world when I position myself changes too. And it brings so much freedom because we are basing this on facts, or like people do it on their mom. Many people have challenging relationships with their mom. And when they start realizing and counting number of diapers they had to change, or like the time they had to spend on cooking food or preparing food for us, it really works very well on our imagination and helps us to really realize what really happened in our life. So this is how we also start a program with re-examining the story about our life we keep telling ourselves based on facts. So yeah, sorry, I probably went sideways with this, but I think this is very important.
No, and I feel, it seems like your approach to your program is well beyond just, you're going to, obviously, well beyond going, you're going to do Italy for 3 months and Portugal for 3 months and this for 3 months and you're going to eat the food. No, you're going really deep. And it sounds like the similarity between the different profiles of women that are kind of your largest client list, it sounds like it's all going back to having that renewed sense of purpose and figuring out who they are in that moment, because their purpose when they're in their 30s is going to be different to what their purpose is when they're in their 70s. So I think the common thread here seems to all be tying back to purpose. And in your opinion, travel and sabbaticals is one of the best ways to be able to get beneath that surface. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that going on a sabbatical, like from just like a logistical standpoint, like why do you think the sabbatical is the vehicle to guide people through to this renewed sense of purpose?
A good question. I feel like it ties to or relates to the permission that we need to first give ourselves to even start such a process. Oftentimes women feel like they don't deserve it, that everybody else is more important, that they feel like nobody understands them, that they actually want to go on. Oftentimes this is what my clients tend to say, that they're like, oh yeah, my partner doesn't understand it, but I'm going anyway. And so I think that it's about giving this permission and to ourselves to to spend some time on ourselves in order to then live a more meaningful life with the people around us. So I think the sabbatical, it just provides this great vehicle and a space for those processes to emerge. And I feel it's also longer than a typical holiday. And that's why I believe that solo female sabbatical can be more potentially productive, because you're never really alone. It's just this stage one when you are really invited to be alone, to really calm your nervous system and prepare for all what's ahead of you to emerge. But you're never alone. You know, Kelly, when you travel, you're never really alone unless you really want it. And it's also about fun. I just don't want us and our audience to feel like it's hard work always. It's supposed to be fun. And all these stages are filled with body movement activities, with exercises, with like things inviting us out and do things that we would never do otherwise. And it's the stage 3, for example, which we haven't touched upon yet. It's all about exploration, fun, and connection. And it's all about doing all these amazing things with people, with yourself, having fun, indulging in food, whatever it takes for you to feel alive. But I think the sabbatical is just like a great vehicle and a space to carve this time out for these processes to happen, and do it hopefully intentionally. We also base a lot of this work on our intention setting and purpose discovery. So I think it's just like provides this likelihood of this to happen, because we go into this sabbatical, we know how rare it is to be able to take one, right? Either like 12%. I was actually surprised at the percentage of companies in UK providing paid sabbaticals. It's 12%, and
Wow.
30 or 40 are allowing this to happen. So they don't pay for you. They don't pay you when you are on one, but they accept it and they allow you back. So it's becoming a big deal. Like companies like Microsoft, Patagonia, Ralph Lauren, they all offering sabbaticals. And I was surprised.
Wow.
And there's like a huge database by an amazing man out there that has been popularizing sabbaticals in Harvard Business Review. He works at Harvard as well. DJ Didonna. He recently published his huge piece in Harvard Business Review just a few days ago. He's done such an amazing job in popularizing the whole thing of taking sabbatical and giving ourselves permission and what to do to actually benefit from taking one and not to miss this opportunity. I don't know if that answers your question. I just feel like it's this intentionality around it, that we know how rare it is, how of the privilege it is to take one. And then when with right tools and a guidance, I think we can really get a lot out of it.
Do you have any favorite destinations that you like to send people to, or is it really truly customized to the person? Like, what's your like go-to? I know it's going to depend on the person, but I'd love to hear if you had like a dream year, where would you send people to?
Oh, wow. I mean, just to stay within one destination or region.
Oh, whatever you want. Yeah, no rules.
Because
whatever.
usually it depends on the stage. Every stage is slightly different. So usually the stage 1, where we invite women to be in positive solitude and go for nature walks in safety. It's very important. And we also want this place to be off season. We don't want crowds. We don't want noise. We want a lot of nature, full of nature surroundings around us. So this, of course, choice would be different. These recommendations would be different than for stage 3, where we invite women to go to seek a destination that's completely culturally foreign to them. Like that they get out of the train or whatever they traveled with and they don't know what's going on, but they feel safe. So that's, for example, a stage 3 recommendation, which would be different. So for stage 1, for example, I will recommend Madeira, an island on the Atlantic Ocean that belongs to Portugal. And it feels also like you are somewhere else, because you are like surrounded by water, and it just like makes it easier for many people, at least, to really calm down. So islands would be like my recommendation. Far, for example, in Croatia. It is a very touristic destination, very sought after, but off season it's a fantastic place to go. Slovenia, a fantastic gem, so safe, so clean, so well managed as well. That will be another place that I will recommend. Menorca in Spain, for example, for stage 1. It depends really how much time you have, because if you have just like 1 week or so, because some people cannot really justify, taking 4 weeks off. It is personalized, because also what's really important for me is the interests of those women. What really makes them alive? What are their needs? What are the type of activities that they enjoy engaging in? No, that would be something that I will very much take into account when discussing the potential destination. And for stage 3, for example, Armenia. Yerevan, the capital of Armenia, right north from Iran. A completely different environment that, the majority of the travelers you're going to meet, they are either from Russia or Iran. And it's fantastic to engage within this type of traveler community, because you get to see that we are all the same, and like we learn so much from these slightly different perspectives out there. I think it's very enriching. So yeah, it depends for what stage of the travel experience, the budget of course, and the interests.
Absolutely. And so for those that are
Where
listening,
would you go?
oh
Where would
gosh.
you go?
Oh, you can't do that to me right now. I have no idea. I need to
I'm really
prepare.
curious.
If I could do a year, I would probably spend 3 months in New Zealand, 3 months in Sri Lanka, 3 months, I don't know, somewhere in Europe, probably. I don't know. Definitely New Zealand, because I just think the nature side of it is incredible. And I love Sri Lanka, just the culture and all the activities and everything like that. Maybe I'll take one of your suggestions and try Madeira, because I haven't done Madeira, but 3 months in Madeira might be a little too long. We'll work on this together. We'll work on it together.
It might be a little bit long. Yeah, but it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Another place that I would consider, Japan.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. I'm getting Japan's getting very popular right now. But so just a quick one. So you mentioned stage 1, stage 3, stage 4. Can you just very quickly, high level, repeat or review what your stages
Absolutely.
are? Because if someone's listening right now and they're feeling the pull to take their own sabbatical, they don't know where to begin. And of course, they're going to work with you. But if they're just thinking about it right now, can you just walk us through really quickly, like high level, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, so they know kind of where we're.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. As I said just shortly, we sourcing the inspiration for this stage-based program from a few different sources, and those are the regenerative approach to life. So we are acknowledging the nature as a blueprint for our actions, and we acknowledge the interconnectedness and interdependence of all web of life. We also source a lot from the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell, which came up with the monomyth, which is the journey between the world known and unknown, and basically literature such or movies such as The Lord of the Rings, even the story of the Jesus Christ or Matrix, they all follow apparently the same formula of a journey going from anyway. So that's another inspiration to it, the Japanese psychology. And we start with a call to adventure. So before the stage 1 starts, we spend quite a lot of time, according to the transformation design principles, on preparation. So we believe that the quality of your experience depends very much on how it has a direct relation to how much you actually prepared. And accordingly to scientists, 50% of the anticipation joy related to any travel experience happens before people even depart. And this is the great window opportunity for people to start adopting new habits and start engaging in new behaviors, because this is when they are excited. This is when they are the most likely to do something new and differently. Slightly. It doesn't have to be a big deal, big changes. We are not talking about that. As we said, Kaizen, small steps, small changes, but consistent. So yeah, it starts with preparation. And there's quite a lot of things that we prepare with and by when we engage with the process. There's an option to either just go on your own and have a guidebook and use it, or be also guided. So we have guidebook and coaching, just two simple options. So of course it depends also which option you choose, because with the coaching you have the coaching sessions as well, where you can get a little bit deeper and have more assistance and guidance, and of course discussion and opportunity to be taken accountable. There's the preparation, call to adventure. Then we start with deep rest and introspection. So this is the time when you are alone, unplugged. You do as little as possible. You keep your routine. You are in silence. It doesn't mean you need to escape from people or hide from them, but it's important to be on your own for somewhere between 4 to 7 days. And don't use a phone. I recommend my clients to delete temporarily the social media apps, just for this 4 weeks. Believe me, it's really hard to come back to having them. You develop such a resistance because you start feeling how amazing life feels without these distractions and all this influx of information constantly, even positive ones and creative. So we have this deep rest and introspection. Then this is being followed. This lies oftentimes what it does is to lie the foundation for the other processes to emerge. So then after this first week, we indulge into like the creativity boost. We consume certain type of information, podcasts, movies, documentaries, articles, exercises, reflection exercises, experiential activities, some things that you might have never heard of before in your life. In Japanese psychology, we don't say what's wise, what's not. We don't advise. We ask questions. And then let people come up with their own answers. Because we believe that's the way it should be, because that's what sticks. When people can really experience it firsthand on their own life. So that's why we ask questions. It's important to ask relevant questions, no? And inspiring and getting into the measurable facts and stuff. This usually helps people understand when they are and what potentially they might want to change in their lives. So yeah, creativity boost and purpose rediscovery. It's stage 2. So this is when we engage in ikigai exercises. We do Naikan exercises, these 3 questions that I told you, on people in our lives that sometimes we might have slightly challenging relationships with. So we work on this. We already start training our attention to put it more outwardly, to focus on tastes, on smells, on the places we are, on the people we are with, etc. We just slowly start adopting new habits without really talking too much about it, but this exercise invite the women on that journey. And we really put a lot of emphasis on the purpose or discovery. We ask different questions. We are getting closer to identifying what these unique talents we are and how we can put them to use so that they maybe support some other people as well. Then the stage 3, it's all about connection, exploration, etc. So this is when we go somewhere we've never been before, that we don't know much about, and we do a lot of different exercises there. One of them is Morita Journal, which comes from Shoma Morita, who is a founder of this approach to anxiety that I've been sourcing from. Of course, not just to heal anxiety, but just to support women on their life transition, during the life transitions. So basically with the journal, Morita Journal, it's actually quite cool. It's for a week, you keep a journal and you set your alarm clock for some random hours that you cannot really predict. You cannot even remember. So I know 11 a.m. or 11 past 7 a.m. or like 8:59, like this kind of things. You never know. And whenever it rings, you just stop. Whatever you're doing doesn't matter. You stop and you write down the hour, the action you were performing, and then the thoughts and feelings you are having. And then you do it like every hour when you are awakened for a week. In our guidebook, it's 3 days because I want people to also enjoy their exploration time, not to just be with the journal. But basically, after 3 days, doing it every hour when you are awakened, you already came up with quite an interesting data to analyze. And you start seeing what happens when you are outside, when you are moving, or when you are like with your phone. Believe me, the thoughts and feelings, like when you are on your phone, you're usually in the past or present or future. Very rarely in your present when you're on your phone. Like when you, for example, the phone rings and you've been on your phone scrolling or something, believe me, like your thoughts and feelings are usually quite challenging and anxiety inducing. Whenever you're in nature and the phone rings, you start seeing the patterns. So that's really important in this stage 3 to also realize like how our thoughts and feelings relate to our activity at hand and what activities support us and our well-being and which don't. Because while you do it yourself and you see it from your own experience, then it's easier to change it. No, if I tell you, oh yeah, maybe change your morning routine. But come on, if you don't experience it, if you don't feel it yourself, that's not going to stick probably.
Right.
So that's why we focus very much on trying, experiencing, practicing. And sorry for lengthy answer. And then stage number 4, it's all about meaning making and integration. So we come back home and we do a lot of different exercises of how can we actually apply those new insights, slightly different ways of being. We just want to be happy and have simple lives and come back to these simple pleasures and simple joys and purposes, etc. So when we are back on stage 4, it's all about integrating our new experiences into our everyday life.
I really love that you focus a lot on the integration piece as well, because that's a piece of travel that I think is missing for a lot of people, especially, I mean, I've hosted retreats for 8 years now, and a large part of the last day of any retreat is talking about, okay, well, what is our action plan for home? We have an intention and we have an action, right? And it's like, we need to figure out like,
love it.
Yeah, we want to feel how we feel on retreat. Okay, but how are you going to do that? And so I really appreciate that you do take the time to acknowledge that the experience that they have overseas is going to be very special and integral to their experience. But actually, it's like, how do you take that back home to ensure that the work is being done? Because life is going to be the same when you get home around you, but you're going to be different. So how do you reconcile that? I think that's a really, really well-rounded approach to being able to guide people, whether it's a 3-week sabbatical or a year sabbatical. I think you've really like hit the nail on the head on your framework. And I'm really excited for people to be able to come across your work, perhaps utilize you as a support. I know you're out there in the media and sharing a lot as well, which is really amazing. When you're talking about different destinations, you mentioned safety, like number one, first and foremost, safety, right? And solo female travel can often come with concerns about loneliness or safety or worried about a different culture. I hear a lot. I remember when I moved to Thailand, everyone around me was like, are you going to be safe? Is it safe over there? That was like what everyone kept saying. But the experience of the Thai people was unreal in terms of kindness and just the goodness, right? Can you just share a story about maybe some of your solo travels that highlights the kindness of strangers or the goodness in people? I know you have experiences in Bolivia or China, like just leaving us with something that can inspire those who feel it in their hearts, the call to take a sabbatical, but perhaps they are concerned about loneliness or safety.
Ah, what a beautiful question, Kelly. And I would love to hear about your experiences too. We need to set up another meeting because
Yeah, we'll do
I
a
would
part
love
two.
to, I would love that, and we can change. I would love that. I love asking questions and learning from people's experience, and it seems like yours is really special. I think something maybe before I get into that, Bolivia and in China, which are beautiful, memorable moments and very life changing, I would say. Accordingly to statistics, the majority of the criminal activity happens when apparently women on women happens when we are distracted. So that's why also the program is very much about learning step by step how to be more out there, to pay more attention of what's around us, not to watch nervously for any potential crime activity around us, but just to be out there more, not to be distracted or just being present fully. So I think that might also translate into more safety. That's number one. I think the second thing, before I mentioned the Bolivia and China, is also the preparation. I think the more we prepare, the more we learn about do's and don'ts, the traditions, the cultural course of conduct, savoir vivre of like traveling solo, being really prepared. This is also going to translate into the safety we have, avoid certain behaviors and actions depending on where we are, taking precautions, etc., etc. There's so much that can be avoided if we prepare. That's why the guidebook, it's also filled with, it's a sabbatical self-empowerment framework, but on the other hand, there's many chapters on how to travel, how to prepare, how to be safe, how to pack light, how to be really prepared with like different sorts of phone numbers even to have with us, first aid kit with all the ingredients, like really be prepared, not too much, not the first kit like this. Anytime I go somewhere long term, I use it for myself or for others. Preparation, attention, being present really helps. And the preparation also involves researching your destinations. And then I think, tying to your question about Bolivia and China and all this kindness experience on the road, I feel like going without expectations, with this empty cup mentality, where we go to learn, where we go to immerse, not to expect something to be a certain way, where we go with respect. I think it's the most, I consider it's safer to travel with respect than travel with a gun. Like when we are respectful towards people, you know it. When you smile, when you listen, when you say no, but gently, politely, like in India, sometimes you have to say no when you are a solo woman traveler there. But if you do it with respect, looking into the eyes of the other, everything is perfect. And all the situations are like the potential danger dissolves when you are really paying attention to those people around you and not like, oh, leave me alone. But just like, thank you. I'm not interested, but I wish you a good day. And you mean it, and really like nothing happens. And I feel like really traveling with your heart and with respect. So whenever I was, I don't know, in China on a bicycle or Cuba or hitchhiking, there was some certain element of risk involved there and discomfort. And I think putting yourself out there in that position opens people's hearts. So whenever you're like, traveling on a bicycle for China, like I wouldn't expect that to happen. But even though the language barrier was so huge, because we were traveling on a bicycles, like the locals we were asking, for example, for some potable water. And just like we were in so many places, households where, people were very poor. And they just wanted to give you anything they have. And there was this story, I remember we were traveling on one motorcycle in Bolivia with my ex-partner, and I was quite young, was 21 or 2 back then. I spoke Spanish, so that helped, but these people spoke Quechua only, the indigenous language. And there was a storm approaching. We were in a completely untouristic place, part of Bolivia, and there was, no hotels, nothing, no shops, no petrol stations, nothing. And there was a big storm approaching, and I'm scared of storms, and we wanted to find some shelter. And at some point, we did came across this hut that was kind of collapsing. It was not in the best condition. So we just basically took shelter there. And at some point, there was a man approaching that looked drunk. And my partner was a little bit scared, not because of his risk really, but he was scared of a woman being there too. And this man, we were slightly scared. And then when this man approached, he brought this huge basket of mandarins. Yeah, he might have been a bit tipsy, but still, he just wanted to give us whatever he had. And in this case, it was this basket of mandarins. We were like expecting the worst, and like he just wanted to just like say hi, etc. And the following morning, when we woke up, he came back. It was sunny day, and he invited us to come to say hello to his mom, which was bedbound. And we just had another even more opportunity to see the conditions they were living in. And we saw by the side of the bed of this woman, they had like a few pieces of vegetables, and they were insisting so much so that we take it because they wanted to just, we didn't, but they want to give you everything. And when you go for experiences like this, when you just see that, this hospitality is still out there, that just people want to receive you, that they have no any sort of judgment there about you having more, having a privilege to travel. They just don't even think about these things. They just want to receive you, host you, and make you feel welcome. And like these kind of experiences all over the world, in China as well, because you mentioned China, it's they are truly transformational and you cannot really design them. But I think how you can raise the chances of something like this happening is to go with respect, with an open heart, and acknowledge and embrace the risk and discomfort. Because if it wasn't for this bicycle journey or motorcycle, wild camping, I don't know if this would have happened. I think the chances are lower. And there's this professor, a good friend of mine, Brad McLean. He used to work for NASA and he's on board of Jane Goodall Institute. And he's dedicated his career to investigate the transformation. What actually makes the experience transformational? What are the factors? What are the parts? And he came up with this very simple framework called ELVIS, which basically states that there are 3 elements for the experience to be transformational. And transformational, but by what he means that it involves the identity, profound, long-lasting identity change. So the first thing that is needed for such an experience to happen is the discomfort and challenging experience to take place, followed by a profound narrative of that experience, of this discomfort experience, and then this might result in this profound identity change. So it's pretty interesting, this discomfort and challenge. No, we oftentimes try to avoid it as much as we can, but I think many designers within transformational travel space, as you clearly know, they are incorporating these elements of spontaneity or challenge or unknown into their experience, because there's a lot of potential there for us to be empowered. No. My clients often say that if it wasn't because of the difficulty they've been through, like my client now, she's now in a wonderful human being. She's now in Crete. She never traveled alone before. She's 60, and things went a little bit wrong for her at the initial destination she planned for herself, which was Larnaca in Cyprus. And basically, she had no choice but to change her plans and do it on her own. And it was very difficult for her and costly, but she did it. And now she says that she knows she can do it and she feels stronger. Yeah. So I think there's hard to talk about empowerment without some level of adversity. So I think it's important to remember to invite it in a safe way.
You mentioned the word embrace the discomfort, and I think that's something that is not celebrated enough in the transformation space, especially when it comes to travel, because we want all the romantic pictures and the beauty and the aesthetic and the feel, but actually the grit of travel is what gets you through it. And we will definitely need a part 2, maybe to talk about resilience through travel and how that shapes you. I think I'm already seeing the wheels turning for that one. But I just wanted to thank you so much for your time and for sharing your journey so openly. We actually close our episodes with 3 rapid fire questions. So short and sharp, we'll move through them quick. I didn't prepare you ahead of time. So number
great.
1,
I love it.
Is what country has left the biggest impact on you?
Nepal.
Beautiful. Number 2, what is your must-have travel item?
Rock climbing shoes.
Oh, okay. I've never heard that one on the podcast before, so you win for most unique answer. Number 3 is, what is your biggest life lesson that you've learned while traveling?
That people have good nature and that the world is a beautiful place and we are an integral part of it. One of the biggest ways or clues or solutions to have a truly meaningful life is to realize what our unique talent is and to give it away. To really be of service. And as long as we are able to really enjoy being of service, not because we want to hear we are good people, but we just really do it. When we realize how much joy is there, I think that's the ultimate goal. That's something that I've learned and I keep learning because it's a everyday job and it has to be reminded. But I think, that being of service is the ultimate source of fulfillment.
Amazing. How could people connect with you if they wanted to say hi online? What's the best way for people to reach out, follow, message, all the things?
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, everybody is welcome. I look forward to getting to know everybody and hearing about their own stories. I think the easiest would be to visit our website at empowered.travel or follow our journey on Instagram at empowered.travel.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I can't wait for listeners to hear your story, connect with you, and we will get prepared for part 2.
Oh, you are so kind, Kelly, and I can't wait to catch up with you as well and learn more about your story.
And that's a wrap for this incredible episode. I want to give a huge shout out to our podcast partner and Beyond for supporting the show. Check out the link in the show notes to learn more about their unforgettable journeys around the world. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Transform with Travel podcast. If you have a friend or a loved one you were thinking of during this episode, spread a little love and share this episode with them, someone who could use a little inspiration. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to the podcast as well. To learn more about us, head to www.transformwithtravel.co, and I'll see you on the next episode. This is your reminder to keep on exploring.